Have you ever wondered if you're truly kind or just trying to please others? It's a question many of us grapple with, often in the quiet spaces of our own hearts. We're taught to be nice, to help others, to be the good friend, the supportive partner, the helpful colleague. But where does that desire to help come from? And is there a difference between authentic kindness and the subtle, often exhausting dance of people-pleasing? The truth is, there's a fine line between the two, and sometimes it's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. When you think about the acts of kindness you've extended to others, what's the driving force behind them? Is it a genuine desire to ease someone's burden, or is there a part of you that's seeking approval or validation? We like to see ourselves as good people, generous and caring, but there's also a vulnerability in acknowledging the ways in which we might be driven by a need for external validation. Think back to a time when you went out of your way for someone. Maybe you stayed up late helping a friend with a project. Was there a sense of joy in giving? Or was there a feeling of obligation, a hope for recognition? Sometimes our motivations are a mix of both genuine kindness and a desire to please. The important thing is to be aware of the nuances, to bring those motivations into the light of our awareness. True kindness flows from a place of wholeness, from self-acceptance and love. We live in a world that often glorifies grand gestures of kindness, those viral videos of strangers helping each other. But what about the everyday acts of kindness that often go unnoticed? The quiet moments of empathy, the listening ear offered without judgment. These smaller acts of kindness don't offer the same level of external validation. What if true kindness is less about the size of the gesture and more about the quality of presence we bring to our interactions? These seemingly small acts of kindness can have a profound impact on the lives of those around us. They are the building blocks of connection, the threads that weave together the tapestry of human experience. Kindness isn't about seeking recognition or praise, but about showing up in the world with an open heart. Let's talk about the heart of the matter, the why behind our actions. Because when it comes to kindness, motivation matters. It's the difference between an act that comes from a place of genuine care and one that's driven by obligation or a desire for approval. Think about receiving a gift from someone you care about. On the surface, the gift itself is beautiful, thoughtful. But if the giver's intentions weren't pure, the gift loses its luster. The same principle applies to acts of kindness. True kindness flows from empathy, compassion, and a genuine desire to ease suffering or bring joy to others. It's not about what we can get out of it, but about showing up for another human being simply because their well-being matters to us. When we act from a place of genuine kindness, we tap into a wellspring of abundance. Let me share a personal story that really brought this distinction to light for me. A few years ago, a friend was trying to set me up with this guy. Let's call him Mark. Mark was, on paper, quite the catch, successful, charming, always willing to lend a hand. My friend couldn't stop raving about how nice he was. So we went on a few dates, and it was true. Mark was incredibly agreeable. He always offered to pay, constantly complimented me, and never, ever disagreed with me. At first it was flattering, even a little intoxicating. But as I got to know him better, a sense of unease began to creep in. It wasn't that Mark was doing anything overtly wrong, it was more of an absence, a lack of authenticity in his constant need to please. Mark's constant need to please wasn't about genuine kindness. It was about avoiding conflict, seeking approval, and protecting himself from the vulnerability of being truly seen. Now, I'm not sharing this story to throw Mark under the bus or to imply that I'm above this kind of behavior. The truth is, I've been there myself. I spent a good chunk of my life trying to be the good girl, the one who never rocked the boat, the one who was always there to help, often at the expense of my own needs and desires. I was a chronic people pleaser, driven by a deep-seated fear of not being loved or accepted for who I truly was. I learned to anticipate the needs of others, to mirror their opinions, to say yes when I really wanted to say no, and for a while it worked. But beneath the surface, I was exhausted. I felt unseen, unheard, and deeply resentful of the constant self-betrayal. It took me a long time and a lot of painful lessons to realize that my people-pleasing wasn't a sustainable way to live. True kindness begins with self-compassion, with honoring my own needs and boundaries. How can we tell the difference between genuine kindness and people-pleasing? Kindness comes from love, people-pleasing from fear. Kindness eases suffering and brings joy without expecting anything in return. People-pleasing is driven by fear of rejection and need for approval. Kindness sets boundaries. People-pleasing erases them. Kindness encourages healthy boundaries to protect well-being. Kindness is empowering. People-pleasing is depleting. By recognizing these differences, we can make choices that support our well-being. The thing about people-pleasing is that it might seem harmless on the surface, even virtuous. After all, isn't it a good thing to be nice and helpful? But the truth is, chronic people-pleasing can take a serious toll on our emotional well-being. When we constantly prioritize the needs and desires of others above our own, we send a powerful message to ourselves that our needs don't matter, that our voice doesn't deserve to be heard, that our worthiness is contingent upon the approval of others. This can lead to a whole host of emotional challenges, including resentment. When we consistently say yes to things we don't want to do, resentment is bound to build. We start to feel taken advantage of, unappreciated, and unseen. Burnout, people-pleasing, is exhausting. It requires us to constantly be on, to anticipate the needs of others, and to suppress our own needs and desires. This can lead to emotional, mental, and even physical exhaustion. Anxiety. The need to please often stems from a fear of rejection or conflict. This can lead to chronic anxiety, as we constantly worry about what others think of us and whether we're doing enough to earn their approval. So how do we move from the shaky ground of people-pleasing to the solid ground of genuine kindness? It's a journey, not a destination, and it requires us to cultivate a new way of being in the world, one that prioritizes self-compassion, authenticity, and healthy boundaries. Here are a few steps you can take to begin that journey. Start with self-awareness. The first step is to become aware of your patterns. Pay attention to the situations where you're most likely to people-please. What are the triggers? What are the fears and insecurities that drive this behavior? Challenge your negative self-talk. People-pleasing is often fueled by negative self-talk. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve to be loved. I have to be perfect to be accepted. Challenge these thoughts. Are they really true? What evidence do you have to support them? Practice setting boundaries. Start small. Say no to a request that you don't have the time or energy for. Let someone know that their behavior is unacceptable. As you begin to untangle yourself from the web of people-pleasing, you'll start to discover a deeper, more authentic form of kindness emerging from within. It's a quieter kindness, one that's not driven by a need for external validation, but by a genuine desire to connect, to offer support, to be a source of love and light in the world. This kind of kindness isn't about grand gestures or heroic acts. It's about the everyday moments of presence, compassion, and empathy. It's about showing up for the people in your life, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's messy, even when you don't have all the answers. It's about recognizing that true kindness isn't about perfection. It's about showing up with an open heart, even when you're struggling, even when you've messed up, even when you feel like you have nothing left to give. So, my friends, as we reach the end of our exploration, I want to leave you with this invitation. Take a moment to reflect on your own relationship with kindness. Ask yourself, what motivates my acts of service? Am I driven by a genuine desire to connect, to offer support, to ease suffering? Or am I caught in the cycle of people-pleasing, seeking validation, avoiding conflict, and betraying my own needs in the process? There's no judgment here, only an invitation to deepen your self-awareness, to bring compassion to your own journey, and to make choices that align with your values and support your well-being. Because the world needs your authentic kindness. It needs your open heart, your willingness to be vulnerable, your capacity for empathy and compassion. As we conclude this exploration of kindness and people-pleasing, let's remember that the journey to authenticity is ongoing. It's about recognizing our patterns, challenging our fears, and making conscious choices that align with our values. We've explored the subtle differences between genuine kindness, rooted in empathy and compassion, and people-pleasing, often driven by fear and a need for validation. Remember, true kindness is a gift we give ourselves first and then extend to others. As we embrace our own worthiness and cultivate self-compassion, we pave the way for deeper, more meaningful connections and a more fulfilling life, radiating kindness outward like ripples on a still pond.